All right, guys, Troy Francis coming at you from Las Vegas. Here it is, Thursday night, and the party is already rocking in Las Vegas. I've just done a show, Access Vegas, with Rollo Tomasi, Mike Sartain, and Adam Sosnick, and a bunch of very nice girls. And I'm going to go and grab a drink now, walking down the strip, and I wanted to come on and talk to you about something that's very important and really underpins, I think, everything really I talk about on this channel, which is the key value should be personal freedom, okay? I think the key freedom for any guy watching this stuff, it should be personal freedom. That is to say, freedom of choice in terms of who you date, in terms of where you live, in terms of how you make your money, autonomy, okay? That, well, certainly for me, that's my key value really, or one of my key values in life, okay? But what's super, super important is that you figure out what you actually want, okay? And, don't take it from me. I mean, I'm saying personal freedom is the goal. I think probably for many people who watch this, it's the same. But don't just take my word for it. You have to think really carefully about what you actually want. Now, on the podcast before, we covered loads of topics. We were on for like 3 hours. It was great. It was a blast. But we covered various different things. But a lot of the time on these Red Bull podcasts, Fresh and Fit, Mike Sartain, Access Vegas, whatever, Pearl, etc., often the guys, although they are quote-unquote red pill, they'll be coming at it from, to varying degrees, what you might call a sort of traditionalist kind of mindset, in the sense that they'll be saying things like, well, women behave like this, and if they didn't behave like that, things would be better. And and it's all coming from, maybe traditionalist is the wrong word, but it's coming from the perspective of wanting a long-term relationship and looking at this behavior in terms of, is this compatible with a partner that I would want to have, a girl that I would want to be in some sort of relationship with. Now, for me personally, all of that stuff is completely irrelevant, because I'm not looking for that, or certainly not at this point in my life. I'm not looking for a long-term relationship. I'm not looking for a serious partnership in that sense. So all of these, kind of like red flags and kind of things that the people bang on about on these podcasts. Does she have tattoos? Body count to some extent? What's her job? I mean, there was a girl on the podcast before who was a stripper, and we were talking to her about how she might find it difficult to find a guy to wife her up, like a high-value man to wife her up, because, well, she's been a stripper and thousands of dudes have presumably seen her naked. So I was saying, well, that kind of takes the edge off it, doesn't it, for the guy who is marriage-minded. But if you're not marriage-minded, then why give a damn about any of that stuff? It's maybe not completely irrelevant, but its relevance diminishes in importance, okay? Now, for me personally, would I date a stripper? Casually, yeah. Who cares, right? Who cares? It doesn't make any difference. Would I get into a serious, committed, long-term partnership with a woman who was a stripper or had been a stripper? Probably I would think twice about that. But again, you see, it's an irrelevant question for me at this point in my life, because I just don't give a damn about any of that stuff. I'm not looking for that, And I think a lot of people come to the space, and again, I bang on about this all the time, but they come to the space with essentially what you might call a blue pill mindset, in the sense that they're looking at it through this prism of, okay, is she a quality woman? Is she somebody that I could wife up or at least get into an LTR with or whatever? And you have to question yourself and think, well, why am I even thinking about it in those terms? Is that really what I want? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe you've made that decision. Maybe you're one of these guys, you're looking to have kids, whatever, and you want to, ensure that she's the right girl for that. And, if that's genuinely, do you know what? I might actually go back down again, because I think, okay. If that's genuinely what you want, then fine, fair enough. Who am I to say differently? But I'm just cautioning you that you really have to be sure about this, and you have to think it through from your own perspective and not listening to some buffoon of a trad who's like 26 years old, who's been in a relationship for 5 minutes, and now thinks that he can lecture you on the importance of finding a good woman and settling down and blah, blah, blah. Because, quite frankly, this dude doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, okay? Now, I do, because I'm older, and I've been around the block, and I've seen a lot of relationships go south. We know that the divorce rate is very high, sadly. We know that the rate of infidelity is very high. We know that, and Rich Cooper, of the Unplugged Alpha fame, actually posted some interesting data on this recently on his Twitter. We also know that, sadly, happiness in long-term relationships is also not particularly high. So, you know, sometimes you'll see these sort of more traditionalist content creators, and they're presenting the option of being in a relationship, getting married, whatever, as being this kind of utopia. And if you just do that and stop messing around and stop listening to these degenerate, you know, red pill dudes, and find a good woman and blah, 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 it's all going to be fucking great. And that is an absolute fantasy. It's absolute nonsense. These guys can only get away with that on the internet, where people seem to live in this bubble that's divorced from reality, okay? If you just go out and look around you, I mean, Rollo on the podcast was talking about, you know, if you go to the airport in Vegas and walk through the terminal and take your headphones off and just look around you, look at the couples around you, look at the families around you. Are they looking like they're in this fucking utopian kind of amazing state of uncontained bliss? No, of course they fucking don't. Nobody does. All right? So the idea that one way of life, this traditional way of life, is magically going to make you incredibly happy is complete bullshit. And everybody knows it, really. And the people who are peddling this idea know it as well. But they have to build a brand. They want to sell whatever they sell, you know, their mentorship groups and all this kind of stuff. So this is why independent thought and thinking stuff through for yourself is so important, okay? Because listening to somebody on the internet, and I include myself in this as well, I mean, don't even fucking listen to me, right? I mean, you've got to make your own decisions about this stuff. You may listen to this and think, Troy, you're a complete wanker. I don't agree with what you're saying. Actually, I just want to find a good woman and move to Surbiton, have a bunch of kids, and go to IKEA every weekend, and that's going to be great. And if that's genuinely what you want, fine. No problem with that at all. You have to make your own choices. But I suspect that a lot of guys and women are more affected by cultural conditioning, societal conditioning, and kind of trying to fit in with their friends, and oh my God, I'm hitting 30 and my friends are getting married and blah, blah, blah. It's more those considerations rather than actually logically thinking about it. Now, the reality is, you know, I'm in my 40s, here we are in Vegas, Thursday night, I can do whatever the hell I want, okay? I'm walking down the street, I'm gonna go for a drink. You know, I don't have to worry about any of the crap that most other men my age have to worry about. Why? Because I'm a free agent, because I'm not married, I'm not in that setup, and therefore I can do what the hell I want. And, you know, people think, well, what happens to you for a lonely old man? Well, you know, I mean, well, look at me. I literally am, you know, some would say old, and, you know, I don't have a partner. Am I crying myself to sleep every night? Fuck no. I'm having a fucking blast, okay? And you can too. And listen, I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I was actually talking to my friend Thor about this earlier, the content creator at RP Thor. And I was saying, as I've said to many guys, look, I reckon, and he's 60 or whatever, 60 plus, and I was saying, look, I reckon, to be honest, you know, I've lived a certain type of lifestyle throughout my, I mean, with girlfriends, with time off, but, you know, throughout my 30s, now into my 40s, I reckon through my 50s, shouldn't really change very much. Maybe you get into your 60s and you want to slow down a bit, fine, no problem with that. But, you know, this idea that suddenly you're going to hit a certain age and you're going to be left on the shelf or it's all going to be a disaster, is simply not true in the modern world because, you know, there's a lot of options out there. We can travel. We have the internet. We have the ability to make connections with people all over the fucking planet. And, you know, as a single dude, it really is one of the best times to be alive. So bear that in mind. Don't think about the impending doom if you don't, you know, do what your parents did, because that time is gone, man. You know, even if you're a Zoomer, the time of your parents is fucking different. You know, it's gone. It's very, very different now. And the good side of that is that you don't necessarily have to do the conventional thing. You can make your own way and make different choices in your life. Anyway, with that said, hit subscribe to the video, give me a like, hit the notifications bell, and yeah. And if you want to get on the edge, if you're watching this in August 2023, we're still open. There's a link below. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.